Israeli soldiers withdrew from Gaza's main hospital after raiding and combing through the facility. Now, as Israel tightens its hold on northern Gaza, leaders have spoken of expanding the ground operation into the south to root out Hamas. Most of Gaza's 2.3 million people have already crowded into the territory south, and a worsening fuel shortage threatens to paralyze the supply of humanitarian services and shut down mobile and internet services as well. The US president said he had made it clear to Israel that a two-state solution was the only answer to resolve the Israel-Palestinian conflict. But Joe Biden stated it was not realistic to expect Tel Aviv to stop its military actions given threats by senior Hamas officials that they intended to attack Israel again. Both Israel and its top ally, the United States, said the Palestinian militants have a command center below the al-Shifa complex. Hamas and directors at the hospital, which has become a focal point in the 40-day-old war, deny the charge. Israel has said the raid was executed based on an operational necessity. It said the troops had found military and combat equipment inside the compound.
מצאנו בבית החולים אמצעי לחימה, חומרי מודיעין, טכנולוגיות צבאיות וציוד צבאי. בנוסף, הותרה מפקדה מבצעית, ובה אמצעי קשר וטכנולוגיות מבצעיות השייכות לחמאס. הטכנולוגיות והחומרים הועברו למיצוי ובדיקה של גורמי המודיעין.
The Hamas-run health ministry said Israel did not find any equipment or weapons in the hospital during the raid. In a statement, the ministry director said, and I quote, "Essentially, we don't allow weapons in any hospital." Gaza officials stated that Israeli bulldozers destroyed parts of the southern entrance to the hospital.
Sheva, Arba, Shtaim. It's definitely an MRI machine, and if you follow me behind the MRI machine, I'll show you what our troops exposed just minutes ago. In military terms, this is a grab bag, grab and go of a Hamas combatant, and if you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you will be able to see is military equipment. There is an AK-47. There are spare parts of the MRI department. We found another.
An Israeli army video showed automatic weapons, grenades, ammunition and flak jackets, it said, were recovered from an undisclosed building within the complex. Witnesses in recent days have described conditions inside the hospital as horrific. Witness accounts describe medical procedures taking place without anesthetics, families with scant food, and they're living in corridors, and the stench of decomposing corpses filling the air. Head of the World Health Organization called the decision to send troops into the hospital totally unacceptable. The situation in Gaza's other hospitals is also dire, with WHO saying that 22 of 36 are not functional due to a lack of generator fuel, damage or combat.
What you will be able to see are...
Now, the video released by the Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza claimed to show patients being moved inside the smoke-filled corridors of al-Shifa hospital. As Israeli forces launched a raid, health workers and other men are seen trying to cover their mouths and coughing as they move through the building. International concern over the fate of the people inside al-Shifa hospital increased further as news of Israel's raid emerged. Qatar called for an urgent international investigation involving the United Nations. The White House pushed back against Hamas claims that Joe Biden was responsible for the hospital raid over U.S. assessments that militants were using al-Shifa complex. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said, and I'm quoting here, "We did not give an okay to Israeli military operations around the hospital." Now, speaking of other leaders, this man on your screens, Turkish President Erdogan called Israel a terror state, stepping up his condemnation of the war in Gaza. Of course, there was a response from the Israeli side. Netanyahu hit back, saying Erdogan actually supports the terrorist state of Hamas. Now, meanwhile, viewers, Amman said an Israeli bombing close to the Jordanian field hospital in northern Gaza had injured 7 of its staff. Jordanian Foreign Ministry said it was awaiting the results of an investigation to take the necessary legal and political steps. Netanyahu gave no indication that Israel was easing up its campaign, saying there is no place in Gaza that we won't reach.
אתם זוכרים שאמרו לנו שלא נפרוץ לעזה? פרצנו. אמרו לנו שלא נגיע לפאתי העיר עזה? הגענו. אמרו לנו שלא ניכנס לשיפה? נכנסנו. וברוח הזאת אנחנו אומרים דבר פשוט. אין מקום בעזה שלא נגיע אליו. אין מסתור, אין מחסה, אין מקלט למרצחי החמאס. אנחנו נגיע ונחסל את החמאס ונחזיר את החטופים שלנו. אלה שתי משימות קדושות.
Now, the Israeli premier has come under increasing pressure to do more to free the hostages. Relatives of the captives have been calling on him to agree to a deal for their release immediately. One woman abducted by Hamas had given birth in captivity. Netanyahu's wife wrote in a letter to US First Lady Jill Biden, released by the premier's office. Just hours after receiving its first delivery of fuel since the 7th of October, the UN warned Wednesday that its operations in Gaza were on the brink of collapse. The UN Agency for Supporting Palestinian Refugees confirmed receiving 23,027 litres of fuel, but it said that it met only 9% of daily needs. Tensions across the West Asian region have surged since the start of the war. UN humanitarian chief discussed with Iranian foreign minister concerns about the Israel-Hamas war spreading.
Worried about the expansion of the war into the north. And if there is to be a war in the north with Hezbollah and Israel, then I fear the worst. I fear the worst. And we know that we can easily imagine the worst, because it will be a war that makes even Gaza, with its awful horrors of daily struggle, look like just a beginning.